Though the worst of the COVID-19 third wave seems to be over, cases are still fluctuating in some provinces. New infections are now averaging just under 3,000 a day, with the Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal contributing to the majority of these. But with electioneering set to increase in October, ahead of the local government elections on the 1st of November, how concerned should we be about the fourth wave? Professor Adrian Puren from the National Institute of Communicable Diseases joining me now from Johannesburg for more on this. Prof, good evening. The numbers from what we are seeing and several commentators about them in terms of the current daily infections rates are pretty much down, and they have gone down quite a bit. And are they telling us that we are over the third wave?
No, on the contrary, as a country, we are still in the third wave, or as some of us prefer to call it, the resurgence, the third resurgence. So I think if I get this right, I think it's only really Gauteng and Limpopo that are really out of their so-called third wave. The rest of the provinces are still within the third wave. So I think even though we're trying to think about the so-called fourth resurgence, I think we really need to just keep on focusing on the current state of the epidemic in South Africa. You're quite right. When we look, the declines are not only just in the cases, but also hospitalizations and deaths as well. So these are good indicators that within the next few weeks, I'm hoping that we will all come out of the so-called third wave or resurgence.
Okay. Now, I saw some reports that early December we could see a fourth wave. Now, between now and then, as the numbers are declining, as you are saying, as over the next couple of weeks, we might be moving out of the third wave. How concerned should we be that we're going into these local government elections on the 1st of November? Yes, we are under level 2 restrictions, but campaigning will be happening and people will be voting. We've just come out of a voter registration weekend. How concerned should we be that the numbers might rise and we might get into that fourth wave sooner than later?
Yes, it's not a matter really just of spikes or increases. I think what will be critical is to really try and monitor, for example, clusters, that may occur at particular events. So even though I think there are stipulations with regard to the numbers within a venue, if it's a closed venue versus an outdoor venue, I think it's really going to be important how that's going to be actually managed. I think there are different perspectives. There's this pre-run up to the election where we're going to have these types of events. And it's therefore really critical, I think, and incumbent upon all concerned that are managing these particular events to ensure that they work with the necessary authorities to ensure that the size or the numbers are certainly kept within limits, as well as the so-called spacing and so forth. But I think that may well be a challenge. So I think we may well possibly see clusters. Again, like the events that we saw earlier, I think it was in July in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng, it becomes very difficult sometimes to attribute these particular spikes or clusters, but they may well be related to such events. So it's really important that we manage those events very well during the period of electioneering, as well as the period at the election day as well. So those are the different components, and I'm sure there are different authorities that are involved and working with political parties and the IEC, and particularly the IEC will probably be taking an important lead in ensuring the safety of voters. It's really going to be critical.
As you speak of events and clusters, I'm thinking we're heading into a Heritage Weekend. I know of many people in my circle who have planned to go away, and there are weddings and stuff is happening. The weather is nice as well in terms of, summer starting. And in April, I remember over Easter, there were some cluster outbreaks that happened. I remember talking to the MEC for Health, Miss Tsiu in the Free State, the MEC for Health in the Free State. They were very concerned in a number of districts then in April about cluster outbreaks. So these clusters could happen not just because of electioneering, but also because of other types of events. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. So I was going to say, I know we're focusing a great deal on the upcoming elections, but I think we all should just need to be aware that certainly we've gone through some readjustments, and we may well see if those declines are really seen as a good indicator, that in fact we may see further readjustments. So again, under those circumstances, I think there still needs to be a great deal of emphasis around the so-called non-pharmaceutical interventions and so forth. And of course, more critically, of course, to get more and more people vaccinated. That's going to be important.
Yeah.
So you're
just
right.
On that,
the relaxation
sorry, Prof.
will lead to potential clusters. Apologies.
Sorry, apologies my side. On that, you only mentioned vaccination. I didn't want to lose this point, and that's my last question to you tonight. We are not ramping up vaccination as quickly and as much as possible, but it is happening. Could more vaccinations help us to, to mitigate the impact of the fourth resurgence or the fourth wave, which is expected early December? Could we see a less severe impact than we've just witnessed during the third wave?
Absolutely, and in particular, I think if we really focus on specific high-risk groups, let's say 50 or 60 and above, and those individuals with comorbidities, I think is really critical that we get those individuals vaccinated, and that will really, I think, really change the scenarios that we will have in terms of a so-called fourth resurgence in that particular group in terms of serious disease, hospitalizations, and death. So I think there may well be a resurgence, but I think that the nature of that resurgence, I think, is going to be influenced by the fact of how many people have been infected and have immunity, as well as our ability to vaccinate at large numbers and at scale, and in particular, vulnerable groups.
Yeah, we're going to need that vaccination to really be ramped up. And if you haven't done it, please do it. It's for your own sake and also the sake of your loved ones. Thank you very much, Professor Adrian Puren from the National Institute of Communicable Diseases.